Hello, and welcome to the Stolen Minutes podcast. This is episode 3. It feels like forever since I have checked in after doing Vlogmas and recording little bits every day and putting those out there. I've been like wanting to get back and talk to you guys. A few things were prohibiting me from doing that. One, my college kid was still home, and so there just was no time to sit down and collect my thoughts and record. And then, like the last week that she was home, I came down with the cold that seemed to get passed around at Christmas. Yesterday was the first night that I went to sleep without a sore throat in like 2 weeks. And my voice is still a little bit gravelly, scratchy. I had a sore throat, and by the middle of that first week, I lost my voice. And so, yeah, there was no recording going to happen with that. So I'm feeling much better now. I don't know what that all was, but I'm over it. This is even an impromptu video right now. I honestly am procrastinating doing what I need to do. My parents are coming down today, and we're going to put in a closet organizer for my coat closet. We've lived in this house 20 years, and that coat closet has been a nightmare, and just seriously in the past 3 months have come to the realization that there is a solution. So props and thanks to my sister who had the solution for that. So I should be emptying that closet out right now instead of recording, but this is going to be way more fun. So let's do that. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about what is off my needles, what is currently on my needles. I'm being not monogamous, but as monogamous as I've been with my knitting for a while. And yeah, I'm not really going to have a big like 2022 recap, catch up. I will share kind of how I keep track of my projects in a pen and paper kind of fashion. Is, you know, I do it on Ravelry also, but just for my own self, I'll kind of share what I do. I always find that fascinating when people share those things. And yeah, I think that'll probably be it. It'll be all like knitting today. So finished projects that have happened since we last talked, since Christmas. I don't have the first one with me. I already gifted that to my college kid, to Isabel, who you saw over Vlogmas. I cast on a sport weight Musselburgh over on New Year's Eve. That was like my New Year's Eve cast on. I was still in the midst of working on my Advent socks, but I decided that I wanted to send her back to college with a warm hat. So I cast on this red, the color name is Hollyberry. It's Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Sport. And I cast that on and kind of set it aside. I got mostly through the increases and set it aside to finish up my Advent socks. And then I picked it back up like the week before she was going back so that I could hopefully pump it out. So I actually finished it on the way in the car, taking her back. So that was really nice to finish that. And I took a couple quick photos in the car on my lap and me wearing it. And then I sent it to the back, and she put it on and didn't take it off, you know, until bed that night, probably. So, needless to say, she loves it. So that sport weight, I have to say, might be, it's a close it's a tie with a fingering weight Musselburgh for sure. just super snugly warm. She actually was wearing it more like a slouchy hat than the folded up brim that I prefer, my husband prefers. So, yeah, so that was my kind of after my Advent socks first finished project of 2023. But I do have my Advent socks here, and they are done. The ends are woven in, and I am so pleased with them. So the first pair I'll talk about is my Freckled Whimsy Advent, and I knit 2 pairs. I knit a pair for me and a pair for my mom, and they started in different row or different stripes, so they're matching to themselves, but the 2 pairs are not matching. So these were really fun, and I love the colors of these stripes, and I love how different they are from my other Advent. So my other sock Advent is the Cozy Knitter, and these are the same. And yeah, I worked on Christmas Day, I worked on one of these just while we were opening presents and things, and the second pair I finished, I feel like I finished them before New Year's Eve, but anywho, all the pairs are just my regular vanilla sock pattern that I do with a heel flap and gusset, my favorite heel. I do my socks top down magic loop, and I do 15 rounds of a cuff, and then I knit 7 inches or so for the leg. I am very casual about how I measure that. Now for these, it was based on the color of stripes. So I just had calculated, I knew from years past how many stripes I do on my leg to have enough for the foot. So that's what I do. But generally, I honestly will use my finger. So when I'm knitting, I will lay my sock down on my lap and measure with my first finger and thumb. And this is a good almost 7-inch span or something like that. And then for the second sock, I will lay it on top of the first sock just to make sure it's the same. I have counted rows, but that slows me down. So I am happy to just lay it on there and go with it. I've never felt like my socks are uneven with that method. So I kind of adopted that because when I first started knitting socks, I would measure with a tape measure, but then it got to where there were times when I was out and about and didn't have my tape measure and maybe wasn't in good light to count rows or whatnot. And so I just got to where I would measure with my finger. I measured how big of a span that is, and just kind of went with it. So those are my 2 finished projects. Sorry if you hear the dishwasher is running. The washer just sang its little song. It's done. So it's been somewhat of a busy morning. So yeah, let's talk about what is on my needles. So since I finished my Advent socks, I just went down and picked 1 pair of socks out of my socks that I had finished or hadn't finished by December 1st. I have, I think, 3 or 4 pairs down there that I took down. I didn't want them up here looking at me for the month of December. I knew I would be knitting my Advent, so I just chose to take them down and put them in the sewing room, and that way there was just no temptation to pick those up and knit those. So I decided in the new year that I'm needing some simplicity in my life. Have been feeling very overwhelmed, and just needing to reflect that in my knitting and not have a lot of choices for myself when it comes to sit down and pick up a project. So I grabbed one of my socks that I had started in the fall and didn't get done. And that has been the socks that I've been working on. I have a sweater that I've been working on. And then I do have another pair of socks. And they are Anna of Zebra Yarns. It is her 12-day Advent that started after Christmas. I did not start it. I was still finishing up these 4 pairs of Christmas Advent. So again, just keeping it simple and finishing these, ends moving in, all that good stuff before I started Anna's Advent. So I started these, I think it was it this past weekend, or it might have even been during the week. I can't remember. No, it was just this week. Maybe I started them on like Monday. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at my pictures. But these are flying. So Anna of Zebra Yarns, she does self-striping yarn. I absolutely love her work. Her stripes are fantastic. She has those black and white stripe yarns. I've knit a couple pairs of those. I've done several others and absolutely love her yarn. So this is her 12-day Advent. They are 12 stripes. I'm getting about 10 to 11 rounds per color. And Anna was so generous in her packaging of her Advent that she sends them to you. Whoopsie. She sends them to you wound up. So I am making 2 pairs, one for me, one for my mom. And this is what Anna sent in her Advent. So 2 self-striping, one for each sock, and then this speckled skein. So y'all know that I love hot pink, and my original plan was I was going to have my cuffs cast on and ready for after Christmas to be able to just start those. I didn't realize that there was going to be the speckle skein in there. So I did not start my cuffs beforehand because honestly, knitting 8 socks and then having the socks from before Christmas, some needles tied up with those, I didn't really have any of my favorite sock knitting needles available. I didn't want to buy any more. So that's why I also was like, no, we're finishing the Advent socks and then we can cast on Anna's. So partly I was waiting to clear some needles and partly I was just trying to be disciplined in my casting on. But my original plan was that I was going to cast on the cuffs with her hot pink yarn. I love this color. It is so good. And so that was my original thought in my head. So then when I opened it up and saw the speckled and saw people knitting with the speckled, I was like, oh man, I still just really want to do that hot pink because it's so good. And it's still Anna's yarn. And I could tell from the skein that, I could tell from the skein that there was going to be a hot pink stripe, which made me super happy. So I actually messaged Anna and said, are you going to be offended if I use the hot pink for like heel toe cuff, some combination of that? And she's like, no, not at all. So I cast on the cuff with the hot pink, and I kind of thought I would do the heel in the hot pink also, but I love this speckle. So I'm going to knit the heel in that speckly yarn, and then I'm going to knit the toe. I believe I'm going to do that in the hot pink. So that's what I'm probably going to do. Nothing says on the second pair that I won't change it up, but that's what I'm going to do for now. And then the good thing is that I will have an entire skein and probably more than half of the second one for something else. So super pleased with how these are coming along. They're really fun. I knit the cuff in one afternoon, and then it was like that evening I got into the first stripe, and I don't know. I don't even know where time went because it's like they knit themselves. So these are really fun. I only have one started. I do have a second pair of needles in here that I thought, oh, I'll cast on that second cuff after I get the first one done and, the ball is free. I couldn't even tear myself away from the stripes to cast on that second cuff. So maybe I'll get to that this weekend. we'll see. I don't know. Again, I'm just enjoying doing one and then moving on to the next. So that is my one pair of socks. The other pair of socks is this pair that I know I probably showed on the last podcast, so I won't go about it in length, but this is Unplanned Peacock Studios. In the fall, they were going out of business, so my guess is they probably don't have much left if they're even still in business. But this colorway is called Dark Rainbow. It's just a really fun speckle. It's got this lilac-y purple and this bright cobalt blue and a rust and brown. Just really fun. So I am on the second sock of that. This has been my take it with me in the car or waiting at places, things like that, knitting. So I'm through the gusset decreases and I'm just on the foot. So it is just straight round and round knitting. This has just been really nice to work on. And this is a pair for my mom. I pretty much always have a pair of socks for her and a pair of socks for me on the needles. And then it will fluctuate from there if I have how much I have per person. But like I said, I'm really in this like mood to be a little more monogamous. I'll say I'm monogamous per project. So I have the 2 socks. I'm not really counting the Advent sock, for better or for worse, but I have 1 sock that is like my go-to whatever. The other one, it's on the heel, so it feels a little less on the go to me. And plus I have it in a bigger bag because I have both pairs of yarn and needles, and it's just like it's a little bit more cumbersome to take out and about. So and the last thing that I am working on is my daily pullover sweater. If you remember the last time I talked about this, I am to the ribbing on the bottom. This is a V-neck top down sweater, fingering weight. And I want this sweater finished so badly. When I've tried it on, I just am so excited. So I've got 2 inches of 1x1 ribbing to do on the bottom here. I'm like, I don't even think I have an inch on there, but we'll get there. This yarn is Linen Quill from Pearl Soho, and the colorway name is Rosewood Pink. So I love this blushy pink color. It's just dark enough. I love it. So this is what I have been trying to make myself sit down and work on when I've been just having a little bit of time in the late afternoon, maybe while dinner is cooking or something, because that knit one, purl one, ribbing, I'll tell you, it is not my favorite thing to knit. So those are my 3 projects that I am knitting on and thoroughly enjoying. I cannot wait to get to the sleeves of that sweater. It's just very enjoyable. So yeah, so the other thing I thought I would talk about is how I pen and paper just track my projects and make notes and things. So super excited because this year I am starting a new notebook. Let me get my my old one here. So I just have a notebook and I've kind of modified things as I've gone over the years. This notebook has notes in it starting in 2018. So I'm not sure where my other notebooks are. Sometimes I get rid of them because the information in them just, it's so like notey that it in hindsight, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But I've tried different methods of recording my projects just on pen and paper. I do have everything on Ravelry, and try to take really detailed notes over there if I make any modifications to the pattern, but you'll find what needle size I used and the yarn and the size, if there's a size to choose in the pattern, and pictures. So I do like to have that record in there for sure. But I also enjoy in my notebooks writing down, I've kind of done different ways, but my basic gist that I have fallen on is I like to record just literally what I finished in each month. So I'll write January, and then I just write down whatever the name of the project was and the date that I finished it. There's been years when I have done a started and finished each month. So if I start a project, I'll write down the name of that project, and then I'll write a list of things that I finished. I found that I really didn't go back and reference the started thing because that's in my Ravelry notes. So it felt kind of unnecessary. So I've modified, and I just write down the month and then whatever it was that I finished and maybe who it was for. But generally I can remember that. But then at the end of the year, I like to go through and I will write down a tally of for me, it's like the socks that I knit, and then the hats or sweaters, and then just get a number of how many total projects I completed that year, and then how many of each thing. So that has been really fun to always kind of total those up and see what I finished and then compare the numbers over the years. The other things that will be in my notebook are just notes. Sometimes it is sock striping notes. Sometimes it is pattern modifications. A lot of times I also will have in here some dream knitting or projects that I want to make, or I'll take it with me if I go to a yarn shop and I have jotted down maybe patterns that I want to make and yarn that I'm looking for. I'll write down the name of the pattern, how much yardage I need, the weight of the yarn, if I need needles, just little things like that. But it's also a good place for me to write down maybe sweater quantities of yarn that I have and to brainstorm patterns for that yarn. Because it seems like I'll buy sweater yarn and then my plans for it change. So it's fun to kind of sit and tally up and look at my options for different things that I have. So so this is my old notebook. Yeah, so I was super excited to be able to start a new notebook this year. I had gotten a Rifle Co. notebook at some point, somewhere, sometime, and had just been saving it for the perfect little use for it. I love notebooks. I love paper. I love writing things down. So that is what I am doing with this. So I started, and it's just super simple. And I started out, I wrote out projects coming into 2023. I have 12 on there. I can already cross off my Freckled Whimsy Advent because that came into the new year. And there's some things in here that are certainly longer term projects, but they're on there. I followed up that with a dream projects, maybe just to start the year, some things that off the top of my head I'm wanting to incorporate into my to-do list. Some of them may or may not come true. Some of them aren't even actual patterns that I know exist. It's just like, oh, I would really like to knit a whatever. So yeah, and then I just started a section for finished projects by month. So in January, I have 3 written down. I have both of my Advents that I finished up and the red Musselburgh that I made. So, and then I just left some blank pages for that. And then I am going to track my socks that I knit this year. Oh, you probably can't see that. Anywho, I'm just keeping a running tally of socks that I knit for me and socks that I knit for my mom, just on their own little special page, just because I like to try to knit us both equal amount of socks throughout the year. So this will be a nice visual because I'm just going to list them by name. So it'll be really easy to be like, ooh, I need to find some yarn for mom because I have knit a couple extra pairs for me, something like that. And then I'm going to just do the same thing, listing out individually sweaters and hats. It's what I would do at the end of the year, but I'm kind of trying to do it in real time instead of waiting till the end of the year and going through each month and doing it. No big deal either way. Totally just for me. Then I made a page for, excuse me, for just my yearly project totals to kind of pull those out. And then I have a notes and planning section that I will just jot down little things. So that is my notebook, super simple. I'm hoping this notebook lasts me for several years because I don't even know if I used quite a dozen pages for this year. So I'm excited because I love their florals. So this notebook is pretty and I'm excited to use it. I find it a little hard sometimes to crack into my precious notebooks, and I want to tend to try to hoard them, but I'm trying to be better about that. Even in yarns that I choose to knit, I certainly have special ones, we all do, that we put off using because we need to find the perfect project. I'm trying to not have things be quite so precious and not use them. So this was step one in that. So I think that is about it. Yeah, that is all my stuff. So I don't know when I will get this uploaded, but if not this weekend, hopefully early next week. But I hope that you guys have a great day. I hope you have some fun projects on your needles or your hook. I do have plans to start another granny stripe blanket. I would love to have a second one to be able to keep down here. I have the other one upstairs. I use it on my bed from time to time. So I have plenty of scraps that I want to use up in a blanket. So that is definitely on my to-do list. But yeah, I hope you guys have a good day and thank you for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. And I will talk to you guys all soon. I guess I've procrastinated long enough and I need to get that closet cleared out. So wish me luck and I will talk to you later. Happy knitting. Bye.